Hey, I'm honestly glad you're here watching this. And if you feel like tapping that subscribe button, I genuinely appreciate it more than I can say. Now let's get into it. My name's Daniel Miller. I'm 32, born and bred in Central Ohio. Until last year, I believed I was living the life most people chase. Married to a woman I loved, comfortable in what I thought was a stable, happy partnership. Her name was Jenna Brooks, 31, brilliantly creative, sharp-witted, and the kind of person who could make an ordinary pancake breakfast feel like a scene from a movie. We met during a 4th of July barbecue back in 2015, clicked right away, and got married in the fall of 2018. At the time, I worked long, hard days as a lineman, scaling poles, handling storm damage, and putting myself through the grind. Jenna made her living freelancing as an illustrator, quirky, thoughtful, with a mind that painted in metaphors. We moved into a modest two-bedroom home with a little backyard. She insisted on painting the mailbox lavender, her personal touch. It wasn't flashy, but it was ours. Life was made of tiny rituals, making chicken Alfredo together, quoting The Office like it was scripture, and having the usual couple's tiffs over chores and thermostat settings. It was flawed, but it was home. Then everything began to change. And I remember the exact moment the cracks showed. It was a scorching Tuesday in July. I'd just finished a brutal shift and walked into the house, drenched in sweat. Jenna was lounging on the couch with Lexi and Tasha, two of her college friends, both newly single, sipping mid-afternoon wine and oozing this smug energy like divorce had enlightened them. I bent down to kiss Jenna hello, and she flinched, not playfully. It was subtle but unmistakable. Later that night, she started asking questions. Why we always watch my shows, why she did most of the cooking, why she ever changed her last name. I stood there frozen, blindsided, wondering if she was someone else entirely, or if I'd just failed to notice her leaving me emotionally long ago. In the weeks that followed, things spiraled fast. Lexi and Tasha became regular fixtures in our home. Lexi was loud, opinionated, and constantly spouting borrowed wisdom from Instagram self-help accounts about divine feminine awakening. Tasha was softer in tone but just as intense, always hinting that marriage was some outdated tool of oppression. And Jenna, she soaked it all up. My wife, the same woman who used to doodle hearts on my lunch bags, now stared at me like I was a symbol of everything wrong in her life. She started speaking in slogans, talking about emotional labor and mental loads, and how she needed to reclaim her autonomy. Every conversation became a minefield. Even casual questions felt like I was taking an exam I didn't study for. I once suggested we go to the fair, and she asked if that was just another way of forcing her into a traditional gender role. No exaggeration. We fought, sure, but the shouting wasn't the worst part. It was the silence, the way she slowly vanished from our life together. I tried everything: counseling, introspection, honest conversations, but Jenna was already gone in every way that counted. Then came the retreat. She enrolled in a $600 weekend workshop called Unbound, a self-described sanctuary for women seeking to rediscover intimacy and feminine strength. It was held in a rustic barn that had been converted into a yoga studio on the outskirts of town. Think dream catchers, tea-labeled clarity and empowerment, and instructors who probably charged extra to teach people how to breathe. The second I read the flyer, I knew this was the end. When she returned, she looked radiant, but not the kind of glow you get from peace. It was the look of someone who had joined a new spiritual tribe and left you behind. She sat me down with a look of serenity and told me she'd grown, that she wanted to explore ethical non-monogamy. Yes, she wanted to start seeing other men, while staying married to me. At first I laughed. I assumed she was joking, but she didn't smile. She calmly explained, like she was reviewing a TED Talk, that we had to move beyond the toxic illusion of exclusivity. It sounded like she was quoting someone who sells overpriced incense for a living. So I asked the question anyone would ask, "Is there already someone else?" She paused, then said his name. Rowan. He was the facilitator of some intimacy exercise at the retreat. They'd bonded during a trust circle, in a barn, surrounded by cantaloupes. And now she wanted him to be part of our relationship, to join our lives, to be with us. My anger wasn't loud. It was sharp, controlled. I didn't yell, I didn't cry. I simply started mapping out my exit. I double-checked the deed. I'd bought the house before the marriage. I stopped the car payments we shared, opened my own bank account, quietly hired a divorce attorney. I refused to be blindsided by someone who dressed betrayal up in flowery language. 2 days before her coffee connection with Rowan, I placed the divorce papers on the kitchen counter. She picked them up, startled, like I'd handed her a letter in a foreign language. "This isn't what I wanted," she said, shaken. "I know," I answered, "but it's what I want." She cried, pleaded, said I was overreacting, that I was destroying 5 years over a simple misunderstanding. I met her gaze and calmly delivered the line that finally broke through. "You already threw it away, I'm just cleaning up the mess." That was just the start, day one. But it marked the beginning of her descent and my quiet revenge. By Saturday, she was pretending nothing had happened, gliding through the house like some enlightened sage, chanting affirmations, lighting candles, scribbling into journals about self-discovery. She'd walk past me, smiling, as if we were in on the same cosmic joke. I didn't smile back. I was executing. She didn't know I'd already emptied our joint account. She hadn't realized I rerouted my income. The auto payments for her car, canceled. The house deed, secured. The prenup, legally reinforced and signed again with witnesses. She used to say prenups were for people who didn't believe in real love. Funny thing is, I did believe in love, which is exactly why I was so dangerous now that I didn't. That night, she curled up next to me in some silk robe, probably from a boutique that sells healing crystals and enlightenment bundles, sipping her usual lavender tea. "Rowan says we're transcending jealousy," she said, eyes glowing. "He thinks we could be a model for other couples." I turned toward her, face blank. "You mean the couple everyone warns their kids not to become?" She laughed. "You're reacting from the ego again. Rowan believes the masculine must be broken before it can be healed." If I heard "Rowan says" one more time, I might have staged an intervention with duct tape and Palo Santo. Instead, I just mumbled, "Sure," and grabbed my keys. I didn't need space. I needed escape. That night, I didn't rage. I finalized. I locked everything down so she'd have the one thing she claimed she wanted more than anything: freedom. Freedom from comfort, from dependability, from me. By Sunday morning, she drifted out the door for brunch with Lexi and Tasha, their sacred weekly summit of sisterhood and spirituality, where they dissected energy shifts like theologians discussing scripture. She didn't know it yet, but the end had already begun. I'd bet those gatherings poured more champagne than they ever did clarity. While she chased some shimmering idea of inner peace, I finally acted on what I'd been delaying for far too long. I changed the locks, took down our wedding photos, and removed every trace of the life we once built under this roof. Then I sat down to draft a final document. It was a list of what she was inheriting from the wreckage. The car, still not paid off, her liberation, untethered from any financial safety net, her creative notes, abandoned on the desk, and that so-called spiritual awakening, still conveniently out of budget. Hours later, she returned with a bouquet of white roses in her arms. I still remember the smile she wore when she stepped inside. She hadn't noticed that her key didn't turn anymore. She set the flowers down on the counter and turned to me, eyes bright. "I feel amazing," she said. Lexi led a manifestation circle. I asked the universe for a smooth transition. I handed her a slender folder. Inside, the signed divorce agreement, proof of our separated accounts, and a handwritten note. The universe listened. Transition complete. She glanced up, lips parted, hands trembling. "You're actually doing this," she said, stunned. I gave a single quiet nod. Her eyes filled, not with sorrow, not yet, but sheer disbelief. It had never occurred to her that I might actually follow through, that I might give her exactly what she'd been asking for. "You don't have to do this," she murmured. "We can fix it. Set some rules, boundaries, structure. Rowan thinks—" "I don't care what Rowan thinks," I interrupted, calm but firm. This was never about structure. It was about trust, disguised in self-help lingo. "I didn't cheat on you," she said sharply, as if that settled everything. "No," I replied, "but you betrayed me in every other way. You planned your exit while expecting me to play along like a good sport." She recoiled slightly, as if the truth stung her skin. "You asked for distance. You've got it. You wanted truth. Well, here it is. I won't turn my marriage into some communal experiment. I want something grounded. You want change? Fine, go change. But I won't be part of it." She stood there frozen, and then, reaching as if for something already lost, she said softly, "Daniel, I still love you." I believed her. "I know," I said. "But love without loyalty? That's not love. That's just selfish." She sank into a chair, speechless. For once, there were no mantras, no affirmations, no performative lines to hide behind. Just silence, and in that silence, she finally heard it. I didn't walk away in rage or sorrow. I left with a strange, clear peace, the kind she had tried to conjure in incense clouds and tantric workshops. I found it by letting go of someone who never truly saw my worth. 2 days later, my phone lit up with a call from an unknown number. It was Jenna. I let it go to voicemail. Her voice started calm, cautiously optimistic. But by the end, it cracked. "Please, Daniel, call me back. I wasn't ready." That was my first clue her so-called authentic life was already starting to unravel. I didn't call. Over the following week, the messages started pouring in. From Jenna, from Lexi, from her yoga instructor, even someone named Amira from their little sisterhood group. Everyone had their own approach. Lexi was smug. "I know this hurts your ego, Daniel, but Jenna's evolving." Tasha was theatrical. "She's shattered. Don't abandon her now when she's on the verge of breakthrough." One woman even had the nerve to tell me I should thank Jenna for including me in her transformation journey. Thank her? I was the one paying the mortgage, filling the fridge, offering her space. And now I was supposed to be grateful she had a backup plan? No, thank you. That Friday I changed my number, not out of pettiness, out of finality. It was time to sever her last thread to the life she'd walked away from, piece by piece. And reality didn't waste time showing up. By mid-month, the car was repossessed. Apparently, Rowan's chakra balancing gig didn't extend to auto loans. She called again, this time from her mother's home phone. Her voice trembled. "They took the car, Daniel. You always handled it. Can you please help? Just this once?" I exhaled. "Maybe Rowan can teach you how to use the Uber app." She hung up. No words. But I knew what that silence meant. Reality had arrived, and it didn't care about her crystal collection. A week later, a mutual friend let me know Jenna had moved back in with her parents. Her father, Reverend Brooks, strict but fair, wasn't exactly impressed with her version of spiritual evolution, especially after she admitted to trying out polyamory while still legally married. Her mother supposedly cried the whole night. Meanwhile, I was moving forward. I got serious at the gym, landed a promotion, started mentoring junior linemen, bought a new truck, sleek, black, clean, no bumper stickers, no dream catchers, just a truck that worked, a real reset. No makeshift altars in the corner, no wheatgrass shots, no check-ins disguised as growth exercises, just room to breathe. Then came Samantha. We met at a fundraiser for veterans. She was one of the organizers, sharp, grounded, with a gaze that didn't dissect you, just saw you, a trauma nurse, calm, solid, no tarot cards, no forced enlightenment, just a woman who believed in mutual effort and showing up, consistently. We went out once, then twice, then every weekend. One evening, she gently asked about my past. I gave her the honest version, no embellishment. She stopped believing in marriage, tried to rewrite the rules. I left before I lost who I was. Samantha nodded. Good. That's what men with self-respect do. I don't think I've respected anyone more in that moment. But karma? Karma had more to say to Jenna. By the third month, even Lexi and Tasha had turned on her. When Jenna started questioning the lifestyle they'd sold her, they dropped her fast. Funny how those who preach acceptance are the first to exile you once you stop echoing their mantras. She was broke, alone, no tribe, no partner, no more validation. Then the message arrived from a brand new Instagram account made just to reach me. Daniel, I was wrong. About everything. I let people interfere. I destroyed what we had. I feel so empty. I miss you. Please let me fix this. I showed it to Samantha. She smiled knowingly. Sounds like a lasagna text? I laughed harder than I had in months. She hadn't been wrong. And just as I suspected, it happened. That next Sunday, I got back from the gym and there she was, waiting outside my front door. Barefoot, no makeup, eyes red and puffy from crying. In her hands, a glass dish wrapped in foil. You still like lasagna, don't you? She asked, voice trembling. I didn't make eye contact. Just moved past her, unlocked the door, and said flatly, already ate. She didn't move, stayed curled up near the doorway, arms wrapped around her legs, clutching that pan like it held some sacred offering to a god she used to mock. Her face was streaked with ruined mascara, and the fiery rebellion she once used to burn our marriage down was nowhere in sight. What was left was a woman who looked hollowed out, shivering, small. I stood there, quiet, letting the weight of it all settle in the air. Daniel, she whispered almost inaudibly, can I have 5 minutes? I leaned against the frame. You had 5 years. She recoiled like I'd slapped her. I know I hurt you. It wasn't a slip-up, Jenna. You made decisions, repeated ones. That's the part you still don't grasp. She wiped her cheek with the back of her hand and let out a faint, bitter chuckle. You always knew where to hit. That's what truth sounds like when you've got nothing left to hide. She looked at me like she didn't recognize who I'd become. Maybe she didn't. Maybe this was the version of me she never thought would actually leave. I miss us, she said softly. I miss laughing at stupid movies, you pretending to hate rom-coms but knowing every quote. I miss how you looked at me, like I mattered. You did, I said, until you chose otherwise. I got lost, she said quickly, desperation edging into her voice. Rowan made it seem like... Don't speak his name. Her lips pressed shut. I let you wander, I said. Let you post, pretend, lie, while your heart slipped away to a guy who sells oil blends and fantasies. It wasn't how it looked. No, it was exactly how it looked. You just didn't think I'd walk away. She hugged the dish tighter. Please, one last chance. I'll go to counseling. I'll delete everything. I'll be different. I stepped onto the porch. Her eyes lit up briefly, like maybe I'd sit beside her. I didn't. I crouched down, looked her straight in the eye. You want to change because you're hurting, not because you value what we had. That's not fair, she said. You're not sorry for what you did. You're sorry it didn't turn out better. She didn't deny it. I stood back up and nodded at the lasagna. You think this fixes everything? That some noodles erase betrayal, lies, 5 years of trust? I didn't know how else to start, she whispered. You start, I said, by leaving. The expression that crossed her face, devastation, raw and shaking. She stood slowly, hands trembling around the pan. Her mouth opened as if to say something, but I had already turned and stepped inside. Take it with you, I said over my shoulder. I don't eat regret. Then I closed the door. Through the window, I watched her collapse onto the steps, sobbing into her hands. 10 minutes passed before she finally got up and walked away. That was the moment I knew. The ghost of our marriage had finally left my doorstep. Later that night, Samantha came over. She stepped inside, looked at me, paused. She was here, wasn't she? I nodded. She sat on the couch beside me and curled up into my side. "Do you regret any of it?" she asked. I looked at her, calm, steady, warm. "Only that I didn't leave sooner?" She smiled gently and kissed me. "Then you're exactly where you should be." 2 weeks went by. No calls, no texts. I thought Jenna had vanished for good. But wounds have a way of resurfacing when you least expect. A letter came, 5 pages in her handwriting. The first 4 were apologies. The last was a plea. She said she'd cut everyone off, started therapy, gotten a real job, even started saving money. There was a note from her dad, Reverend Brooks, vouching for her character. I never replied. I had already moved on my own terms. I was no longer surviving on borrowed time or borrowed faith. I had rebuilt, with truth, with peace I'd clawed my way toward, with the strength of someone who lost everything and came back with more than he thought he ever deserved. 6 months later, I stood at the edge of something new. No Instagram self-care journeys, no sunrise meditations or hollow affirmations. Just a quiet life, a home free from judgment, a job where I led instead of endured, and Samantha, who didn't need buzzwords to tell the truth. As for Jenna, she faded into the background. Word was she'd taken a full-time office job with a local marketing firm. Turns out, the authentic lifestyle doesn't cover dental work or heating bills. Rowan, gone, Lexi and Tasha dropped her the moment she questioned their crystal cult. One of her old friends messaged me just once to say Jenna was trying to live a regular life now. She'd scrubbed her soul coach accounts, trashed her vision boards, and ghosted everyone from the retreats. Apparently, humility had finally arrived. I didn't reply. I had no interest in updates from someone who once told me I should be grateful for how kindly she cheated. Jenna had assumed I'd wait, that I'd hover in orbit around her spiritual awakening, that I'd be there to catch her when her fantasy world collapsed. But the man she walked away from? He was gone. 6 months turned into 8, then a year. And then the invitation arrived. A wedding, distant cousin. I wasn't planning to go until I heard who else was coming. Jenna, her parents, her sister. Samantha and I arrived together. She wore a deep navy dress, elegant without trying. She didn't need to draw attention, she simply had it. We walked in side by side, balanced, whole. People stared, some whispered, I didn't care. Jenna noticed me in the reception line. Her eyes met mine, startled, as if seeing a ghost from a life she'd burned down. She walked over slowly, every step weighed down by memory. "Hi," she said, barely audible over the music. I nodded. "Jenna?" She glanced at Samantha, then back to me. "You look, well, I am." There was a beat of silence. Then she reached into her purse and pulled out a folded note. "I wrote this for myself, but maybe you should have it." I didn't open it, never did. "I hope you're happy," she said, voice catching. "I mean that." I met her gaze, calm and unshaken. "I am. I hope you find something real, for once." Samantha slid her hand around my arm. We walked away. Together. That was the end of it. Later that night, back at my apartment, I opened the folded piece of paper. There was no drama to it. No grand gestures or tear-streaked pleas. Just a single sentence, scribbled in a handwriting I'd recognize anywhere, shaking its way across the page. I understand now, love isn't freedom, it's responsibility. I didn't smile. I didn't cry. I didn't try to reconnect. Because forgiveness doesn't come served in a Tupperware dish. You can't reclaim trust with a meltdown in a supermarket parking lot, and guilt doesn't grant you a second chance. Some mistakes? They're answered not with apologies, but with walking away. It's been more than 2 years. Jenna moved out of state, started a new job. There's no trace left of the woman who once championed raw truth like it was a mission statement. From what I hear, she keeps things low-key now. Rarely dates. Doesn't talk about love as if it needs to come with disclaimers anymore. As for me, I proposed to Samantha last fall. There was no spectacle. It was sincere, intimate, just the two of us. No scripts, no workshops, no clauses about conscious non-monogamy. She said yes, with tears in her eyes. Not because of regret, not from fear, but because she knew I chose her, without hesitation. I've never known a love more real. We adopted a rescue dog, Ranger, a mutt of uncertain origin who lives for early morning walks and whatever pancakes we don't finish. He sleeps curled up at the foot of our bed, unbothered by my snoring. Life feels steady now, my heart feels settled, and when people ask how I found my way here, this is what I tell them. She tried to rewrite what marriage meant to her. I rewrote what peace meant to me, because I didn't just leave someone behind. I walked into the life I was always meant to have. And that's where this story ends. I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for being here. If this resonated with you, there are more stories on the channel. Until next time, take care.